Hey, what's good, everyone? Welcome back to the Passive Income Network podcast, where we talk about business, investments, and innovative technologies. I'm your host, C. Will, and today we have a special guest coming back to the show to bless us with some information. Welcome back to the show, Brent.
Hey, Sewell. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, definitely. It's a pleasure to have you on. It was a good show last time, so happy to have you back. So let's begin for some of the audience who don't know you, who you are, or who haven't watched our last episode. Can you give a quick introduction of who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So, I haven't had a real job since 2018. I started a land investing business in about 2016, really because I was trying to solve a problem and I was gone away from home too much in the military.
Hmm.
And I needed to make passive income to support my family. And I built that throughout my military career because I got out in 2018 and I was able to get out with a roughly about $9,800 a month coming into my bank account from vacant raw land that I had sold. And this was net. That's the net number because I needed almost $5,000 a month to cover living expenses. So I was deathly afraid to get out of the military because I didn't have enough money. Uh, like I wasn't going to get out and leave one job and have to go find another one. I wanted to have enough passive income coming in to cover those expenses before I left the military, which was paying my bills. So that's kind of me. I love passive
Hmm.
income. I'm always looking to build more of it. Now I kind of dump the passive income that I make into other uh, investments that give me passive income. So I don't just focus only on land now, but land is where I make the majority of the money, and then I dump it into other passive income investing channels like light industrial buildings that I have triple net leases on. So the rabbit hole is getting deeper and deeper, and we're always looking for ways to make more passive income. And here's the thing, like I think that it takes work to build passive income.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely. So that's great. And the numbers there, you said about 5,000 a month. That is what a lot of people are paying if you got a house, a car, maybe even a family. Sometimes that takes two incomes to get that going. So that's definitely much needed. And if you're getting close to 10,000 a month, if you were getting that, you're doing really well. That's a great. So let's start. I want to go back to some of those other investments, vehicles that you talk about. We'll save those for a little bit later. I'm definitely interested. But can we talk about the macro right now? We know
Yeah.
the Fed has just did 50 basis points, lowering first time in 4 years. How does that affect your industry and the investments that you're making? And just what's your thoughts there in general?
You know what? I have not watched the news this morning, so I assume that happened today. So
Yeah.
speak to me in regular terms because I don't know about basis points. I don't really work with mortgages. I don't get mortgages on this land. However, everything's driven by how
Hmm.
easily it is to get money. The easier it is to get money, the more things move, the faster real estate trades, and the more expensive that it trades at. So if you took away all the
Hmm.
money, all the lending today and ended it, prices would come down on everything because you have to pay cash, right? So
Makes sense.
I
Yep.
just bought a industrial property. Actually, I'm refinancing one of mine. We'll go off that. I'm going to pay 8.5% interest. And
Mm.
I refinanced a house, one of my rentals, because I had a hard money loan on one of them, and I paid 8.25% on that. So talk to me like that. What's that going to do to my interest
Yeah.
rates on new stuff that I
Hmm.
buy? After I just said I don't use banks to buy land, but I use banks to buy industrial buildings.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't know if I
So I
answered your
know.
question.
No, I think that that does because I know for like a 30-year mortgage, right? Right now it's about 6% or something like that. About a year and a half ago, it was at seven, almost eight.
So they're coming
So
down for real. They're coming down. That's
they're
amazing,
coming down.
dude.
Yeah.
That's
And
worth
then industrial, that's something. I know, yeah, hit the bill.
hit the victory bell for that.
Yeah, so that's big. I do know. So that's going down, which is very. I know that's very important. People are already, making calls talking about refinancing, but industrial. 8%. That sounds high, but I'm not quite sure how that whole industry works. Can you dive into
And
what is an industrial property and what type of industrial property?
and I don't know if it's high or not. I just started buying industrial buildings. I've got like a 3% interest rate on my office building, but I bought it 6 years ago. Um,
Mm,
but here's the thing: if they lower the interest rates on houses, and people are used to, 7.5%, and they get
yeah,
down to 6%, it's almost like going from 100 miles an hour on the freeway on 90 or on interstate to a 25 mile an hour neighborhood road. So, or the reverse opposite, so here's the thing, like if people have gotten used to that higher rate over the last, year and a half or
yeah,
so, and now they've got the ability to get a lower rate, that's going to lower their payment that they would have paid on that $200,000 home or that $300,000 home. Now they can afford it, because if you can get payments lower than what the rent would cost for some of these properties, then now people are going to be buying houses. People are going to be building houses
yes,
again. I shouldn't say again. People are still building houses, but
yeah.
that's just
Just
going to,
more expensive.
it's like throwing gasoline on the fire. The fire never went out.
Oh no, definitely. So I definitely think people are going crazy about that because we are used to everything high right now. So, like you said, any decrease in price and payments, everyone's happy. So let's get to the land now. Let's get back
Yeah.
to the land.
I'm gonna look up prime
Um,
interest rate right now because I want to see what it is.
for
Rates
sure.
today.
So when we talk about land, can you break down like one of your like recent deals? What kind of land did you purchase, and how's that process work for you?
Yeah,
In like a
absolutely.
overview.
So one of my recent purchases, I'll just talk about one that we bought for about $100,000, and we
Okay.
bought the land in Texas for about 100,000. That's with closing costs and title insurance fees, and then we listed it for about 200,000. Well, we got an offer right off the bat within like a month or so. Um, and it was for 165,000 cash. And I was like, well, not as good as what we wanted, but here's the thing, it's still profit. So no
Yeah.
business, no one goes out of business making profit. So I look at these land deals as another one's going to come at the end of the day or tomorrow. There's always another one.
Yep.
So let's turn and burn and dump this dog and make some money on it and go to the next. Well, we're about to close, and the buyer goes, I can only come up with $110,000 right now because I've got 55,000 in cash at my house, 55,000 in cash in my safe at my house, and I'm not willing to put it all in the bank right now. Would you sell or finance? And I was like, well, I'm telling the realtor that's selling the land for me. And I
Mhm.
said, hey, that was the cash price, man. I thought he was coming up with all cash. But here's the thing, if he needs us to sell or finance it, we'll do it for 3 years at 14% interest, and he can pay us interest only payments. So roughly it worked out to about $750 a month on a $55,000 mortgage. So we got all of our money back out of this land deal. And let me tell you, they don't always happen like this. I don't want
Yeah.
anybody to I don't want people to think I'm like giving them smoke and mirrors, because like we do deals all the time. They don't always happen like this. Sometimes they're quick cash, sometimes they're seller financing. Well, now we have 750 a month coming in. That's just pure cash. That's like printing money. Interest only payments for 36 months at $750 a month. I'm loving it. I'm like, man, 3 years of
Yeah,
this,
that is nice.
we're gonna make a lot more on this land deal. So I'm doing the math. Let me just pull out my calculator. I'm sitting at closing like, oh yeah, heck yeah. So 750 a month times 36 months. That's an extra $27,000 for this land deal. Well, first month comes by, his 750 comes out automatically, ACHs into my account. That's what I call better than mailbox money, because it goes right in the bank account via
Yep.
ACH.
Yep.
We don't collect checks anymore or
You have to
cash.
say no checks. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple people that have been with me for like 7 years, still paying checks. And I'm like, man, I need to figure out how to incentivize these people to set up their ACH, or penalize them by charging them a service fee for me having to send someone to the post office box to get the check.
Yeah.
Um, anyhow, there's probably ways I can just have them send it directly to the bank account. But we got to track all this stuff. When you got almost 50 notes coming in, you got to figure out
Yeah.
who's paying what when. So going back to this deal, first month goes by, 750, and then he says, hey, I need your wire information to my assistant. to send you $10,000 towards principal. I'm like, oh man, it was great to get the $10,000 additional, but I'm like, he's going to pay this thing down quicker than ever. This guy's been paying for 4 months. He pays the $750 interest only plus the $10,000. So he's now paid it from $55,000 to $15,000 left. So some people might be like, Brent,
Wow.
you're an idiot. Like, that's a great problem to have. But me, I want the passive
Yeah.
income. I want to get paid as long as possible in every land deal. Because when he pays me off, guess what? I got to go back to work.
Yep. Yeah, because in this situation, you're the lender. So, just like when someone's paying the mortgage, the interest first, that is a better deal for you in terms of getting those smaller payments over the course of time. 14% is nice. So kudos to you for that.
It's
But I
amazing.
do understand why he want to pay that thing off.
I don't blame him.
Definitely.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
And then I got a
Yeah.
couple, when I first started this, like I would sell the land at 0% interest. So even if someone negotiates with me, like, Brent, you're crazy, I'll only pay you 9%. I'm like, yahoo, heck yeah, I used to get 0% interest. And I did this by accident. I sold a piece of land I bought for 75 grand. I paid the seller. This was in 2016. I'm going to tell you a deal I did in 2016, one of my first land deals. I actually just got paid off on that one. And I'm not going to date your podcast. So, but this land deal was done in 2016. I bought it for $75,000. I gave the seller $30,000 down, and he held a $45,000 mortgage at 0% interest for me. So principal payments every single month, my balance went down. So 0% interest is the best thing ever. So I didn't have $30,000. That was the problem. But I called USAA. I was still in the military, and I got a what's called a signature loan or something like that. They gave me a loan for $30,000 right to my bank account, charged me 14% interest, and I had 5 years to pay it off. My payment was like a lot for that. I think it was like $575 a month or something like that. So I paid it down as quick as possible, and then about 4 months later, give or take on the math, it was a while back ago, I sold the land for $29,000 down. So I paid off USAA completely, and I sold it for a total of $159,900. So now I wrote a mortgage for roughly, do the math, whatever, just call it 160 minus 30. So that's about a 129 or so left is what that guy was paying me. And we did an interest rate of it was crazy. It was low. It was like 4.5%. And that's what got me turned on to charge an interest. So I looked at how much money I gained in interest, and fast forward to, several months ago, where unfortunately my buyer passed away for the land. And I'm like, oh God. But I reached out to the family. I was like, listen, I'll take it. I'll buy it back from you for what, your brother paid for it. And they're like, no, sir. They ended up selling it for like $350,000. It went up pretty crazy in Florida, in this one particular area. But here's the thing, that roughly 7 years they paid me, they only paid off like $5,000 worth of the principal. But I collected like
interest.
It was a ton of money. So their payment was $600 and something a month. So $670, I believe, is what it was, for 7 years. So what's 7 years times 12? That's 84 months. So $670 a month times 84. I collected $56,000 in payments, but their balance only went down about $5,000. Do the math. That doesn't work out, does it?
No, not at all. It worked out on your end for
that's
sure.
Because I copied what the banks do. I gave my buyer a 30-year mortgage at like 4.5% interest, 4.6. So he got a great deal. Interest rates were way higher than that. Now they are. At the time, they were pretty darn good. But I mean, that's the power of a 30-year mortgage. Pretty much for the first 7 years, it's front-end loaded interest.
Yeah, very interesting, and got me thinking about something. I see a lot of food carts coming around, and there's becoming vacant lots that were once vacant turned into food cart pods. And so I was thinking, like, what kind of revenue are these people kind of making breaking this off? Do you know anything about the vacant lot to food cart situations that be happening.
No, but I love it. I love the idea so much. When I had my office
Yeah,
space in Colorado Springs, I still have it. It's rented out now, but I was trying to get the food trucks to come in. I have plenty of space. So it
yeah.
sounds like it's catching on.
Yeah, it is definitely. I'm noticing it more and more. Or it'll be like a building that just has a giant parking lot, and they're like, we got to just put some water, a little electricity out there, and then these a lot of apartment buildings are coming up where I live, and they're just people are flooding in. So it's a very interesting thing I'm seeing. So in terms of, let's talk about your teaching and coaching. Can you talk about your program of how you teach people and some principles that you teach them of how to get into the vacant lot industry?
Yeah, yeah. So I love that you asked that. I have a passion. I love seeing people get their first land deal, creating a note. I got a guy that I taught this several years ago. He's living in Hawaii now, earning like $40,000 a
Wow,
month. He moved him and his six children and his wife all to Hawaii. That takes a lot of money.
it
And
definitely does.
I had a little play in that. I feel like I was able to contribute towards that by showing him those skills. I mean, he was a police officer before, at one time. So little things like that. I love teaching people how to get a deal. So we do things a little differently over at the Land Sharks community. I don't want to give people another online course. It's more interactive. I want people to do deals. So I give them the exact steps to take to get a result as quick as possible. We did 4 support calls this week. 2 of them I personally host. Other Land Sharks host them. We want to be interactive. Like, we want to do deals together. I want to fund deals for other land investors. If I can't fund it, I want to point them in the right direction of how to fund it, how to find the money. Because there's so many little tiny steps you got to take in a real estate transaction, and there's multiple different options you can take too. So my goal is
Mhm.
I try and give people the exact steps to take to get the result as quick as possible. So that's kind of what we do with the Land Sharks, and I show my entire
Makes sense.
land business.
So, in terms of, you mentioned earlier your real estate person agent that goes out and is negotiating and whatnot. What is it like to build a team, and what are some of your team members for being in this industry?
Yeah. So I think there you can call anybody a team member. I mean, first, you know, it starts with you, and then a lot of people will hire like a acquisition manager or someone to answer the phones
Mm,
when the sellers are calling in. One of my best team members is just hiring an office manager and executive assistant. But what about the team members you don't have to pay unless you earn income?
mm,
That's the best kind of team member there is that generates income. So I have acquisition managers for that. They don't get paid unless they actually, lock up a deal and we sell the land, as well as like title insurance agents that help me with the land. And then when I have a piece of land in a certain area, I go and look and see what real estate agent's selling that land in that area, because that's a new team member. I want them to help me sell it, or maybe they even have a
yep.
buyer for it.
That makes sense. Yeah. So some of them are essentially hired guns, and others you might need around a little bit more or less.
Hmm.
That makes sense, definitely. Um, Okay, let's talk about the differences. Most people, mostly, I would say, if they're a homeowner, they understand traditional real estate. What's the big difference that what people should know about buying vacant land rather
Yeah.
than buying a home?
Several things, how does, and I've got what's called a due diligence checklist, or we call it the land buying roadmap. But people can get a copy of this if they go to the landsharks.com/DD as in due diligence. But I've got a land buying roadmap where like people can look out for like these hidden traps. Like, you want to know, like, is there access to the land? Is the land buildable? Call the city, talk to the regional building department or the planning and zoning department, and make sure they'll issue you a building permit. If the land's not buildable, that changes things drastically as far as what the land's worth. Can you get water to the land? How do you get water on the land? Is it big enough for a septic system, or would you need to like tie into the city sewer? Little things like that are good to know, but a lot of that can be solved by talking to a land sales specialist real estate agent in that area that knows how to sell those parcels and knows those streets and what goes where. Um, So yeah, that's kind of like almost the easy button is by just speaking to a real estate agent that's sold land in that area in the past. Your boots on the ground, really, because I'm doing this mostly virtual. Like I'm not driving to all these parcels of land. I'm not getting on a plane to go to Texas to see this land. I'm getting paid for a lot of land that I've never even seen.
I like the way that sounds. Yeah. So okay. So you're talking about getting the person that's boots on the ground is doing a lot of the work because they should know what's going on with the lands that they're listing and that they have. Do you ever like develop any of the land yourself if you like that land or see a great opportunity there? And what's
Yeah,
your take on that?
Yeah, I experiment quite a bit with that. I love putting a modular home or a manufactured home or having a contractor build a stick built house in some of these. Some of them we just run an analysis on. Is it better to build a house on it or just sell it as vacant raw land? I'll tell you that 99% of my deals have been just selling the vacant raw land. There's been a few that I've built houses on or put a modular home on. And I think that the higher these interest rates go, the worse the economy gets, the more people are going to need manufactured homes. So I'm
Yes.
actually talking to a gentleman right now that's a manufactured home dealer, and he owns a bunch of mobile home parks. And we're combining forces to start building on some of the land that I'm finding, some of the land that the land sharks are finding, and funding these projects. So that's kind of our next venture is to teach more people about what we're doing with this and fund their deals.
Yeah, mobile home parks and those what do you say manufactured homes, those real thin ones, they are very popular right now because housing for some people is tough.
Yeah,
Um,
and some of these are just so
yeah.
beautiful. These houses are amazing, and they come with warranty. And it's
Hmm.
like why would I move into this? Go rent this dump, or I can own my own brand new house on my own
A lot
land.
cheaper. Yep. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing that's happening, and it makes a lot of sense. Earlier, you mentioned different investments. Industrial was one of them. When you're getting passive income, what else are you looking to invest in and to make more income from that money?
Yeah, I think we should take our passive income and put it into other investment opportunities, tax shelters, because I don't really get a lot of tax. I don't get any tax shelter with vacant raw land, and I'm obviously not a CPA. So talk to your CPA. Don't
Yeah.
take my advice, but I take uh, I take my passive income from land or income I make from flipping a parcel of land or assigning a contract from land, and I dump it into like a down payment uh, so I mentioned the refinance. So
Yep.
I bought a second building from a seller I had already purchased one building from, and we're refinancing it right now. But I love when the sellers hold the financing. So I accumulate enough money, and then I'll put another down payment on another building, like an industrial building, that will pay itself off in 15 years. And my interest rate's 8% on that one. And it generates additional passive income, positive cash flow. Now, yes, I
Mm.
just locked up 100 grand or 150 grand as a down payment. But when I do that as well, I get the benefit. So, for instance, this building that we just bought, 465,000, I get the benefit of that whole entire 465,000, even though I didn't write a check for that much. I borrowed most of that money. So that gives me a
Mhm.
tax shelter. We can do something called a cost segregation and depreciate that building. So I get positive cash flow. I get a tax shelter. I've got a tenant in place already that we have under a triple net lease. So they fix everything.
Mhm.
They're responsible for the insurance. They're responsible for the taxes and the repairs. Insurance covers that building in case, God forbid, something happens. So my tenants are paying that mortgage down for me. And the fifth thing, it's appreciating. The building's becoming worth more and more because it's worth more the second you put a tenant into it. Both like these
Yeah.
two buildings I bought in the last 8 months, they've been vacant, completely vacant. So by me just putting a 4-year lease on both of these buildings, with a triple net lease that increases 3% per year, it's with the consumer price index, the CPI. So we just increased the rent 3% a year. I'm making these evaluations for these buildings go from maybe 465,000 to maybe 875,000 in just 4 years.
Mm. Okay, I understand what you're doing there. Smart play for sure. You are bringing a lot of value to this type of investment right here, which increases the value, which makes you make more money over time. It makes sense. And then, like you said, then you can refinance later when the rates get lower, right?
Yeah, I probably never will though, because I think refinancing is an absolute trap. It's a trick. The only people that make money on that is a bank and the mortgage brokers, not us. Us, the consumers, we don't.
Hmm.
So, for instance, let me explain why. Because when they reset that mortgage to another 30-year mortgage or another 15-year mortgage, that clock gets reset completely back over. Banks know that people move or sell or whatever every 5 to 7 years. So if it's 7 years front end loaded interest, like you should never
Yep.
refinance. I don't care if you have a 9% interest rate and you got like, I don't know, you on a 30-year mortgage and you got 21 years left on it and the mortgage rates go down to 2%, don't touch that loan. Just pay extra.
Makes
Get it
sense.
paid off.
Yeah.
Because now you're in the glory time. That whoever's not
What's
on
that?
video
Like a
can't see
yield
this.
curve or
But yeah,
whatever?
that
Yeah.
curve is going in your favor finally and not the banks.
That makes sense. Yep. That's great advice if y'all are paying attention to that. You didn't see the hand if you're on audio, but yeah,
Yeah. And that's
definitely
why.
makes sense.
So here's another thing. It's like when people stop paying me for land, here's what happens. Sometimes people stop paying me for the land. I've already made profits sometimes. Sometimes we'll modify their loan to where we lower their payment. Because I look at land as I'll get another deal tomorrow. So if they
Mm.
need to lower their payment to be comfortable and not miss payments, I ask them what they can afford, and we readjust that mortgage. And it's really it's helping them keep their equity that they've already built, but it also helps me too because it's basically just adding more time than I make interest.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. As we start to close out, when things get, let's say, tough or